Yo guys, welcome to the last lap. Don't forget to drop a lovely, juicy 5-star rating if you're watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it.
Maybe IndyCar. We'll say. But obviously, talking of the future, talking of 23, we've got a few kind of topics we wanted to kind of breeze over for 23.
Yeah.
First of all, back to Red Bull. Now that we've had time to kind of, you know, I've heard bits from, you know, people way more intelligent like Craig Scarborough than me talking about the potential impact on Red Bull of this wind tunnel time. Do we think it's going to make a significant, because obviously lower wind tunnel time anyway because they won the constructors relative to the rest of the field, but and even
the penalties
less, exactly, another 7% knocked off. Do we think that's going to make enough of a difference, especially considering, like you were saying earlier, Adas, how good Max Verstappen has been and how good you anticipate he will be next year as well?
No. There you go. Next question.
This is easy.
Exactly. No, honestly, I think that team is, first of all, they've already got a leg up over everyone else. Like, their car wasn't just good, it was dominant, especially in the races. Like, Ferrari might have had it over one lap, but especially in the races, like Max in some of them, and even Checo, they were clear. And so they've already got that kind of advantage. And I think Christian Horner mentioned it, like, I think that even spurs the team on even more.
Well, I think Max was the differentiating factor. When you look at the average race pace and average quali pace, Perez was behind Leclerc.
But even then, he still finished again like third in the championship and was fighting for second. So even if you say that Perez, I mean, Max is on another level. Whatever car they give him, he'll find another 2/10 out there. That's because that's how good of a driver he is. He will make that difference and make that car dominant. But even Checo was doing a really good job and almost beat Leclerc to second in the championship. So the car was good. I don't think it will affect Red Bull that much. Ultimately, you know, they can still design the car, you know, as much as they want. It's just ultimately more of those parts are going to have to go to the track and be more experimental instead of like getting kind of sorted in the wind tunnel. So perhaps you'll see Red Bull running a bit more flow vis in the practice sessions to kind of, you know, correlate if they see what is right. But I don't think it will make a massive difference, to be honest, because they've already started developing the 2023 car. So
they've still got the newie brain.
They've still got the newie brain, man. You know, making boats and all sorts of. He's sick.
I mean, he's only like a 12-time world champion now. What is that? Like?
It's actually outrageous. He's a cheat code. He's actually a cheat code.
Literally, he is. I thought I was going to die for a second then. I went to breathe and the cough came and it was just...
Adrian knew he needs to design you some lungs.
He does. That would be amazing, actually.
That would be crazy.
Aero upgrade right there.
I could run a marathon in an hour.
Yeah.
That'd be sick.
You used to be a runner as well. Like, what happened to you, man?
I fell off, mate.
Fell off.
We all have
Unbelievable.
Didn't ask. I have my glory days. But no, do you think that... Do you think it's going to make a difference?
I mean, Max Verstappen himself is pretty confident that it's not going to have a, like, they're going to be strong. You know, again, he's excited for next season, like, even though they've got these aero penalties. I think, obviously, like, hopefully with the cost cap and the wind tunnel time, you are going to get this sort of, like, accordion effect of, like, bringing everyone a little bit closer together. But I don't think you're going to get a situation where Red Bull just completely drop off or aren't still like kind of the fastest car. I hope we have a situation where Ferrari and Mercedes are kind of there. We have a 3-car title fight of a kind.
I mean, that would be amazing, yeah.
I know we had the dominance of Verstappen, and it was ultimately Red Bull still would have won the championship because, like you said, their race pace was better. You had so many Grand Prix where Leclerc takes pole and then just get absolutely murdered by the Red Bull, 10 laps in.
One of my favorite moments, I think it was Monza. Leclerc gets pole, and I think Verstappen had like an engine penalty or something, and he was like starting like 9th or 10th. And Leclerc's doing like the top 3, I forget what the top 3 was, but he's doing like his interviews. And the first thing that the interviewer, like one of the first things the interview asks him, so do you think Max is going to win the race? And the guy's starting like 9th. And Leclerc's in the back of his mind, Leclerc's like, yeah, look, Max is probably going to be, pretty quick. And again, he's starting 9th, and that's how dominant Max was. That's how good he was this season. Like wherever he was starting, 9th or what was it, 14th in Spa.
Belgium was ridiculous.
He could have started from the pit lane in Belgium and been the first person to ever win from the pit lane. It was almost at some races, it was almost a guarantee. It was like how many laps it will take him. But that's what Max in his prime at the moment can give you. Like those extra 2 or 3 tenths to make a car look dominant.
But this is why I'm optimistic about next year, because with that year of knowledge that everyone's now got, Ferrari know they had a good platform that they can build on. Mercedes know they kind of messed up, but they salvaged it somewhat towards the end of the year. They know the mistakes they've made.
Williams are in Formula 1 as well.
Williams 115% ATR time. They're going to be like...
But that's what... No, but you were talking about like the Red Bull thing.
Boom.
You can give Williams X amount of wind tunnel time, they're still not going to get to the front because wind tunnel time doesn't define like how quick your car is. Like
exactly.
Williams are just there for the vibes.
It's personnel as well. Like, ultimately.
Exactly. That's why Ferrari haven't won back-to-back championships. They've had the most money coming in historically in Formula 1
Yeah, because
Always.
they get
They used to get some
Historical
mad
payment.
bonus
I can't
payment.
remember what the word is. But
They got the
historical
bag just for
payment.
being there, just for turning up, just because they're Ferrari.
But they still wouldn't win. That's what I mean. Like exactly what you say. It's
Legacy
about the
payments,
quality
wasn't it?
of personnel.
Spending on
That's why
catering, mate.
Force India Racing Point. All that success they had relative to their budget for years. But obviously, it's not going to stay this way forever. There's a kind of top three at the minute. Who do we think are most likely to be the ones to knock on that? You had a good surge from Aston Martin towards the end of the year. Mm-hmm. McLaren, obviously, Alpine, they were the ones fighting for P4. Or maybe, did Alfa Romeo sandbag and they're going to come flying through? Williams
they didn't.
finally going to deliver
they were just
on the
terrible,
car he
mate.
deserves.
Is Yuki Tsunoda the greatest driver of all time?
Yes.
We'll drag AlphaTauri there.
He's being honestly check his car. Because that is not the same car as Gazzy. Yuki Tsunoda's the GOAT, so I don't know what's going on there. But
Conspiracy.
do you know what it is? That midfield, I think that's the most exciting thing. Because even the thing about 2022 is that we didn't get too much of a title fight, but there wasn't even that much of a fight really in the midfield. Maybe Lando Norris by himself might have beaten
Well, it split
Alpine.
into pairs, didn't it?
Exactly, and in the past we've had I remember 2018 it was is Haas going to finish best? The rest is going to be Renault or someone else. So
It was pretty set up from the start, wasn't it? It was defined. It was it's either
and it
going
was
to be McLaren
and it was
or
more
Alpine.
just Alpine bottling it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
blown up every single race.
Yeah,
Fernando
yeah.
Alonso every single race. But I think that's the only thing I'm worried about in terms of Alpine is that are they going to sort out their reliability? Because if Oscar Piastri kicks on like I think he will, I think McLaren could have been Alpine. So that as teams, I think Alpine needs to get a lot better because I still think McLaren is the one that I look at and think if I was in the midfield and if I had to choose a team outside of the top three to be at maybe for the future, I'd still go McLaren. I have more trust in McLaren than I do at Alpine.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think out of the sort of the mid runners, I guess you could argue, or outside the top three, McLaren are the one that strike me with a good young lineup as well. They don't even really need to change for fucking however many years if they didn't want to. They've got that experience of being McLaren and winning before.
And Lando is now the experienced driver. He's been there since 2019. He's not a young driver technically anymore, so he's the experienced guy.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking Aston Martin.
He's been on this Aston. No, I mean, I'm not going to disagree now.
I'm on
there, but
what's the green Kool-Aid? What would that be?
Tommo, do you have shares in a certain car company, perhaps?
They're not doing very well. They're really not. I'll show you after. They're really not. I didn't put much into them, unfortunately for me. I think that with Aston Martin's development over the course of the year, they learnt a lot clearly over the course of the season. Dan Fallow's going into his second year at the team. He was Red Bull's kind of, one of those big brains below Adrian Newey that doesn't necessarily get the credit that they deserve because Adrian, and rightfully so, he gets a lot of the plaudits at Red Bull, but it's not just one person. And I just feel like I think their new facilities pushed back a little bit. It won't be ready for this next season coming up, but I think it's going to be ready midway through.
The wind tunnel is apparently going to be ready in May, but then they've also got two other buildings that aren't going to be ready until the end of 2024. So this is a long-term project.
I think the momentum that they're carrying, the improvement. You look at Vettel's race pace by the end of the year. He was kind of I think he was behind Ocon, in terms of clear of everyone else, and behind the McLaren and the Alpines. I just think having that season from the start and having a driver like Fernando Alonso, who can drive the tits off of anything. Let's be honest. This is Fernando, right? He's
Does he want to drive
completely?
That's the question. No. I
this
think
is what he does best.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think extracting the most out of a car that doesn't have that raw pace is literally Fernando Alonso's bag.
But he can drive anything.
He can literally
yeah.
If you give him a Ford Fiesta
Fiat
tomorrow
500
to drive, he's finishing at least top 15.
But regardless of who we think is going to be best of the rest, do we think any of them are going to be able to perforate into that top three
next season?
The problem with that is there is still quite a gap. Just remember, we did not have a single, except for Lando Norris, we did not have a single person on the podium outside of the top three teams.
True.
Now, you can say that's partly down to maybe a bit of reliability, the top three teams were actually quite good.
But there were more pole sitters this year, different pole sitters than there were last year.
Really?
Yeah.
That actually surprised me because I remember
How many?
Big up K-Mag. Well, you had Russell,
The whole top six and then came
Yeah,
was it?
Did Hamilton get pole?
No.
Hamilton didn't, but
I think it was
K-Mag
just.
did.
I think it was just. What was it? Just 6 then, because it was K-Mag as well. Basically all of the top 6 minus Hamilton, then just K-Mag. I don't remember anyone else.
I'm pretty sure I remember reading that there was one more this year.
I remember Leclerc
Could
got
be
pole
fake
last
news.
year. Anyway, we'll
Could
see.
be
Yeah,
fake
we'll
news.
fact.
You got to remember, we didn't have a top 6 in 2021. We had a top 4 because it was literally just Mercedes versus Red Bull.
I still think there's a gap. You know, even the likes of say Alpine, like there's still a gap between them and like Mercedes. So I feel like
The gap's huge.
Exactly.
If we're being honest, because you get the general theme of a Grand Prix is you have like, right at the end you had the top 6 because Mercedes got there, but like for the most part of the season you had obviously top 4. Red Bull, Ferrari, then a little bit of a gap back to Mercedes, and then like 45 seconds back to like Lando by like the end of the race.
Yeah.
and it was just like it was about 20 seconds in front of Lando and also behind him. He was like in a world of zone.
Yeah. So that sort of gap over the course of a race, that's going to take time to come down. I don't think you're going to get.
I'm just saying though, because Ferrari and McLaren were pretty much on par as recently as 2021.
Last year.
You know what I mean? And now
you had the rule change. You had the
yeah, of course. But that's what I mean. Like that shows that again that the work in these 2022 chassis was going in back in like 2019 when they first started. So they had time, and obviously with COVID a bit more time off. But like, I don't know. I would be surprised if there aren't 3 more teams. Aston, Alpine, McLaren are the ones that come to mind immediately. Maybe Alfa Romeo, if Alfa Romeo carried their progress throughout the season, it's easy to forget how well Bottas started the year.
I think it was really frustrating to see how quickly that team, they didn't just tail off, they fell off a cliff.
Yeah, literally.
Like they were developing that car, but clearly it wasn't developing as well as the other teams. And again, Valtteri Bottas, I remember after like 6 races, I was like, this guy might be like, having the top 4 kind of in terms of best performances this season.
Yeah.
Like he was like 7th or something.
I think he might have been best of the rest for a little.
It was unreal.
It was a start, but ahead of Lando. So
and then all of a sudden they had a lot of reliability issues, and they just couldn't develop the car. Like I think they did, kind of bring an upgrade at one point later in the season, but they looked all right in Mexico, but it was just not enough. So
it was after Silverstone, wasn't it? Because I remember Guan Yu Zhou still got like top 10 in qualifying, but then obviously got like absolutely sent at the start.
Yeah, well, Joe got points in his first race, didn't he?
Well, yeah,
got a
exactly.
P10.
I love Guan Yu Zhou.
But
On a podium for him next season.
Yeah.
In like a crazy race.
I'm actually really gutted from that. The Chinese Grand Prix was like cancelled, because I thought, first proper Chinese driver in Formula One, like at his home Grand Prix, that would have been, mate, Drip Zhou. You would have had a great time there, no doubt.
Yeah, not to be, unfortunately for him.